Okay, so we have our 7 principles, and these are the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the communion of spirits and the ministry of angels, the continuance existence of the human soul, personal responsibility, compensation and retribution hereafter for all the good and evil deeds done on earth, and eternal progress open to every human soul.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Ewin. And now, if I could ask my wonderful assistants online today for our first piece of music for the morning. Thank you.
For just 6.
Wonderful. Thank you. And now I'd like to hand over to Ewin for the reading and the address for this morning. Thank you very much, Ewin.
Okay, I have a simple reading, and it's a very, very short reading, but this comes from a book that I got from my cousin, and in fact, my cousin, and it made me think about how things just travel down through the family in time. And I open a book, and as well as flicking through the pages, I kind of often wonder who had the book, who's read the book. And this is a lovely little book, and it's hard to see because of the background, because it's the Ettrick Shepherd. But there's a very, very short poem in it, and it's Hymn to the Deity. And it simply says, "And long, long may the silver ray our northern arc at eve adorn. then wheeling to the east away, light the grey portals of the morn. It's a lovely little Scottish poem by the Ettrick Shepherd. Spirit never ceases to amaze me. And this is a story I've recounted a few times, but to me it's a very important one. And it was something that made me realise that very often that proof of spiritualism doesn't just come through our own eyes, but comes through the eyes of others. And a few years ago, I was looking after my mother who had dementia, and she sadly passed away around about 5 years ago. And I looked after my mother at home, and something happened a couple of weeks before she passed. And she was lying in bed. We'd set the bed up in the lounge, and this was before she was on any medications that could produce any sort of hallucinations or anything like that. And it was a Friday night, and it was quite quiet, and I was just sitting next to my mother, and I watched her, and she was looking up at the corner of the room. And I cannot find the words still to describe that look. I simply can't find the words. The closest I can get is that not only was she looking at the corner of the room, but she was looking past it. She was looking at something else there. And that's the only words I can find, because, and I'm sure a lot of people will understand this, there was a connection with her and something else that words just don't define. But after a few minutes, she started smiling, and then she started laughing. And I kind of said, "What are you looking at?" And she said, "Heaven." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Heaven." Me being me, I sometimes, to be honest, ask the stupidest of questions, but that's what I do. And I said to her, "Oh, what's it like?" And she said, "Oh, it's just like here." So for a moment, I thought, well, I'm not heading to heaven anytime soon. But again, it was that connection that she had. And I said, "Oh, do you see anyone?" And she kind of nodded her head at the moment, as if to say no. And a few moments later, she was busy in conversation with somebody. And I said, "Who are you speaking to?" And my mother said, "Oh, you know who?" And it's Scots term, "You know who?" I said, "Who's you know who?" And she said, "Oh, you know who?" And to this day, I have no idea who you know who was. But she was speaking to somebody. And after a few moments, I suppose heaven just kind of closed down at that point, because it was not her time. And it was 2 weeks later that she passed. So she had that glimpse of where she was going at that point. And then we roll on to 2 weeks after my mother passed. Now, my brother is what I would consider a healthy skeptic. He likes to talk about spiritualism, paranormal. When he has to deal with it a little bit, he's not quite as comfortable. But it was a Sunday morning, and he came in with my two nieces. And he gave me that look that said, "Kitchen now," as the door was closed. And he said, "Something spooky happened." And he said, "And I don't know how to figure out this one." But again, this was his connection and glimpse, I suppose, into the proof of spiritualism. Because at that point, one of my nieces was having problems sleeping. She would wake up in the middle of the night. So my husband and his wife would take it in turns, that when she woke up, one of them would go through and just lie next to her until she went back to sleep. So this time it was my brother's, my brother's chance to go. And he said he was lying there and he closed his eyes and he knew the wee one was asleep. But he said, I was suddenly aware there was somebody else in the room. And he said as the moments went on, and they could have only been seconds, it felt to him like a long time, but when he looked, it wasn't. But he said, over time, he said, I realised this was Mum. He said, it just felt, I just knew. And he said he couldn't open his eyes. And when I asked him why he didn't want to open his eyes, he said, because I felt if I did, that she would be gone, that connection would have gone. But he said, all of a sudden, he just felt someone come towards him, and he said, all he got was this great big hug. And it was a physical hug. And of course, after that, he opened his eyes and the wee one was completely asleep. So this had happened to him. And he's never been able to explain this, and over time come to accept this with other things that have happened. Now, you can imagine I'm in the kitchen with my brother, and I'm thinking, so this happened to my mother, this happened to my brother, and I'm supposed to be the medium and nothing's happened to me as I'm standing there. But it was at that point, in all seriousness, I realised, well, it was my mother that needed that proof. It was my brother that needed that proof. I didn't need that proof. But in turn, I also got that proof. And then strangely enough, my younger niece, who very much takes after my mother, and it was a couple of Christmases ago, and again, my brother, and this time just the wee niece, youngest niece, came into the house. And my brother said, tell Uncle Ewan what you just told me in the car. And she said, well, she said, a Christmas ago, 1 year ago. And she said, she was quite young. She was only about eight at the time, I think. She said, she woke up in the middle of the night and there was Granny. There was Granny in the room, and they had a wee conversation. Now, she can't remember much about the conversation, but for some reason, Granny said to her, now, don't tell anybody that you've spoken to me until next Christmas. And she kept her word, and it was a Christmas later, and it never fazed her in any way. But of course, she saw Granny, and she had that proof as well, even at that young age, that Granny was there. And of course, it's nice to be able to say to her, well, there's Granny in heaven. There's that angel looking out for you. And you know that wherever you are on your own journey, in your path, that Granny is there. And it was an excellent thing because she was so comfortable with it. It didn't faze her in any way. And I'm sure that we all have a story. We all have a story to tell where people have told us of these things happening and where they have been given that proof. Because that is the great thing as well about spiritualism, about mediumship, about our philosophy, about our healing, is that it really brings that evidence through. And I often think mediumship is something where our loved ones, when they connect, to come back with those memories and memories that we have shared with them, when they talk about specific things that happened, when they talk about things we keep, such as the little book, memories of them, photos of them, And we begin to realize that when we pass over, we do not forget in any way. And I also remember someone saying, and quite simply saying, you know, why do they watch us when they pass over? Why do they look at what's happening? And again, remember I said I can come out with some of the stupidest questions. I have to say I can come out with some strange answers as well, because immediately I just said, well, they do that because they're nosy. And then I thought, actually, that is true. Because I don't know about you, but if I was to pass over today, I'm keeping an eye out on what's happening down here. I'm following family. I want to follow my nieces and their journey and see what they're up to. And yes, I'm going to be nosy. I'm going to see what they're doing. And to be able to come back as well through whatever means and mediumship, whatever, to prove that I'm there. I might not be able to be seen, but I can share with them the journey. I can bring through that proof, and that proof that at the end of the day, we are only a thought away. I love that little poem about we just simply slipped into another room. You know, the door where we can see them's closed, but they are only in another room. And you know, as time goes on, I spoke about my mother, and as time goes on, you know, we all go through grief, and grief will often get a little less through time. But there are these times where we stumble a bit, and we perhaps wonder what we should be doing in life, and we go through times where we're a little bit down, often very down. And I often talk about them these days when it rains. We have those days when the sun shines, but the days when it just seems to rain. But I often think, if we think of those that have passed, and we simply think, well, what would they want us to do? If they were here, and as they're looking down on us, what would they want us to do? And I'm sure in every single case, they would want us to go through life, do the best that we can, smile, try new things, remember them, and remember the memories, and laugh at the things that happened. And we cry at the things, some of the memories as well, but they're part of our life's journey. And if we can do that in the name of those that have passed, what a fitting way. What a fitting way to remember them. So as time goes on and we continue that journey through life, especially in these times and in these present day times, you know, we all, that this is something that affects us all. And we all have days where, let's face it, we are quite down. But in giving that thought and remembering our loved ones who have passed, I hope just gives us that little bit of a boost, in the days and the months to come. Because in getting that proof of spirit from others and giving that proof to myself, I know that they're watching us. I know that they're there. And in life, they will walk with us, laughing with us, crying with us, but they'll be there every step of the journey we take. And I'll leave that with you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Ewin. I know that that's resonated with the people live online today and will resonate in the future for people who watch these services at a later date. So thank you. Absolutely lovely. So quite fittingly, we move over to our second piece of music for the morning.
have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your ability. You're capable of anything. You can achieve any dream. Please don't limit yourself. Don't live your life limited. It's not all sadness and misery. Life's a challenge, but you will succeed. Take control of how you feel in every circumstance. Work on yourself daily. Your story's far from done. The best is yet to come. To achieve, you must believe. You can live out all your dreams. Persevere, you'll make it through. What you need is all in you. When you believe, you will achieve. You can live out all your dreams. It's about time you knew the truth. You got the power all in you. You have to believe in yourself. You don't have to hide anything. You can be your true self. Don't need to follow society. Never forget that you're blessed. Give thanks for everything. Even the hard times will turn out to be blessings. No matter how you feel, you can learn from your pain. It's there to make you great. Your story's far from done. The best is yet to come. To achieve, you must believe. You can live out all your dreams. Persevere, you'll make it through. What you need is all in you. When you believe, you will achieve. You can live out all your dreams. It's about time you knew the truth. You got the power all in you. To achieve, you must believe. You can live out all your dreams. Persevere, you'll make it through. What you need is all in you. When you believe, you will achieve. You can live out all your dreams. It's about time you knew the truth. You got the power all in you.
Lovely, thank you. Now, once more, I'll hand back to Ewin for the demonstration of mediumship. If Ewin is not coming to anybody directly, but you can understand what's being said, you can raise your hand in two ways. Firstly, through the participant screen. There will be a button at the bottom saying raise hand, or alternatively on the reactions button, if you put a thumbs up, which will display on your video camera so we can pick up and let you go live. Ewin, sir, over to you, please.
Hello again. How many of us were swaying to the tune there? It was lovely. It's the first time I've heard that piece of music, and I really enjoyed it. Could I come to Kathy, please?
Good morning.
Good morning. Because during that lovely piece of music there, I was aware of a lady that just came in here. And this lady would come onto your mother's side of the family straight away, because she says it's a lady that my understanding from her is, you know, she follows you through life.
Yes.
And has done for a long time because she has been through before, she says.
Yes.
She's a lady that's often here, often with you. And there's a sense of humour about as well, because she says she spends half the time here and half the time in the spirit side of life, because as this lady comes through and goes to your mum's side of the family straight away, there's a compassion about her, please. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I don't know yet, is this mum in the spirit side of life?
I think you've got my grandmother. My mum's in spirit, yes.
Because I'm just aware of how close everybody in family is here, okay? And I know this lady, please, there's such a compassion that comes forward from her, but I can't get over the fact that the energy she gives is very much of a mum. It is so close, okay?
Okay.
And the compassion that she gives, the beliefs that she had, and there is a spiritual belief about her, okay?
Okay.
Before this lady passed, she knew where she was going to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And she would say as well, there was a peacefulness in her passing. She wasn't scared. In her sense of humour, she still feels she should have had a few more years, but she says it wouldn't have mattered what age she passed. She would have always felt she should have had a few more years.
Yes.
And we've often said this as well. Before she passes, she just talks about being very, very tired, please. Okay?
Yes.
And for some reason, she says her eyes felt tired because she just spent most of the time, she says, with her eyes closed. Her eyelids were heavy.
Yes.
But she has that lovely, compassionate sense of humour. And I know I keep using that word compassionate, but I have not got a lady that forces her beliefs on anybody. And I know growing up round about her here as well would have been a privilege she would have had that privilege to be able to look after everybody. But I know it would have been fun to be around her as well. Is it yourself that keeps misplacing things? Because she talks about misplacing things.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Was it hard then? Because it seems.
Oh, yes. Yeah. 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 Yes.
I'm looking for it a week later as well.
Yeah.
It's not momentarily. So you understand that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Because it could be, as she's saying here, I could put something down on a Sunday and Thursday I'd be trying to find it again.
Yeah.
And of course, she's given me that lovely phrase, and I've heard it myself, that people use when you put something down and you can't find it, and someone will say to you, "Where did you leave it last?" And we know that, and that would have been said to her.
Yeah. Yes.
Takes that she's with a pinch of salt here.
Yes.
And the reason that she wants to come in, and part of the reason is simply because, as she says, at every opportunity, she likes to speak to you, and you know that she is with you. Did you feel you caught a glimpse? She's showing me a mirror, and she's catching the glimpse of somebody in a mirror, and yet I feel she would have had this experience as well. And I don't know whether she ever spoke about that, or understand that with yourself as well.
I can understand the glimpse myself, but she never spoke about it.
Okay, but you understand why she's mentioned this, and yet I still feel she would have caught the glimpse of someone past, because you speak about having these little bits of what I would call the wee spooky occurrences going back as well. And she would have been quite happy speaking about them as well. And you know, the great thing about your Gran as well is that she can laugh at herself.
Yes.
And that, she says, is a trait you have, which is wonderful. because she says you do not. You're very much like her, and if I could sum
I am, yes.
don't
Yes.
take life seriously
Mhm.
in a good way. Yes, so seriously, but do you know what I mean? Overall, you can laugh at yourself, you can find the joy in things, and reading books she brings through here as well.
Yes, yeah.
Love of reading books. She showed me a book going back, and what was the book? Oh, what was the horse? What was the book about the horse? It's such a famous book.
Black Beauty.
Yes. It escaped me there completely. Could you understand why she's bringing me that sort of book through, or that book, please?
No, I can't. I've read it, but I can't understand why.
You have read it though?
I have read it, yes,
That's
yes.
fine, okay, because she's just talking about books, and then she was showing me that book here as well. And there's also one about the secret garden as well.
Mhm.
She's bringing
Yes.
that through. And
Yeah.
it's just as to say, just bringing through these memories here as well. Alice in Wonderland, the other one as well. Okay, bringing all these through. So you had that love of reading when you were younger.
Yes.
It's that fantasy as well. Do you know when we read and we live in the whole
Yes.
story of it and imagine ourselves in? So I know she speaks about you having a lovely and a great imagination here as well. Okay, would you understand the name of Margaret, please, as well?
No, I can't place Margaret.
Okay, can I leave everything
Of
up to
course I can, yes, yes.
and say thank you very much for working with me here?
Thank
Could
you.
I come to, I'm still hearing this name of Margaret, please, and I do want to connect to Mary here because she's right next to you on my screen, and I'm just hoping that you can understand that name, please. Mary?
Yes.
Can you understand the name of Margaret, please?
Yes.
That's fine. Okay, it was just to get my connection there because I was hearing the name of Margaret here. Now I want to now connect with a lady who comes through from Spirit, please. And she's given me the sense of a cancer condition, and this cancer condition that spreads throughout the body, please. Okay?
Yes.
Now, I don't know whether she was a smoker at one point, but I've got this sense of everything's clogged up, and it's from it's either work or smoking or something that happened in the past. Would that make sense to you?
No, not. I can't quite take that. No.
Okay, let me still. Was she a smoker, please? In the past, and I keep going back.
I'm not sure. She wasn't in the in the latter part of her life. No, but I'm not sure about the earlier part.
Because she just takes me back. It's important to say it was events earlier on, as I said, in the past that perhaps contributed to those. But the cancer has taken its toll, and she talks about the last 6 months of her life, and these 6 months of her life were very, very difficult for her because she struggled.
Right, yeah.
And she did, and it was a struggle. Now, she's not letting me know, I have to be honest, who she is yet, you know, in direct relation to yourself here. But I know with her, I have a lady that's a very, very strong lady, and there's a strong will about her. Okay?
Right, yes.
And this strong will kept her here, she says, as long as she could, because she fought and fought and fought.
Yes.
And this battle that she put up was phenomenal. She really, as she's, in her words, she said she took the bull by the horns and really fought for life.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just, you know, and people would have said that afterwards, and they would have spoken about the fight that she put up. She takes me in the month of August being very important to her as well. And she's the one that now mentions the Margaret. So was the Margaret connected with her, please?
Yes.
That's fine. Okay, because I just had to get back to that name and why it came in here.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Margaret.
She's talking about the name of Margaret.
Oh, I thought the person you were talking about was Margaret.
That's fine if it is, because she's the one that's mentioned Margaret.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
Okay, because she's talking about the name of Margaret, and I wanted to get back to why I had that name as it came in the first place. So she's coming through at the moment, please, because she wants to bring a lot of reassurance within family at this time, she says.
Okay, thank you.
And it's very much needed. And she talks about here as well, she talks about the healing energies being sent from spirit, again, along with that reassurance. And she talks about the proof that you receive here as well, because you must work within spirit. There must be a lot going on here, please. And it's not just one wee facet of spiritualism.
No.
You're open to all, and you try.
Yes.
And you know what? This lady did that in her life as well. She would try anything.
Yeah.
She would try anything to get a little bit. No, this was her to try and get that little bit of a reaction from folk, because if she shocked them a little, her job was done, and she quite did that. And she could leave. Would you understand when she could leave a conversation half hanging as well, if that makes sense?
Yes.
Never really knew the outcome.
Yeah.
She had this habit. She would leave you wondering, well, what happened? And suddenly it's as if she's walking away and you've not got the end of the story. And you're almost, well, what happened? And she's not going to tell you. And it's one of these habits that she had here. And yet there's one thing I can see about it as well. She's talking about it's very important for her to do. She says before she passed, she had everything in order.
Yeah.
All the I's dotted, all the T's crossed.
Yes.
Everything was in absolute order. All her affairs, everything.
Yeah.
And she also said here as well, it's important for her to say this, she said the house was tidy as well. So I can also see that humour that she has coming forward. Okay.
Yeah.
She's on about her vase. Of all the things, she's on about a vase she had.
A vase?
Vase, or a vase.
Right. Yes.
Did you get that, or is there some reason why it's important why that had been handed down? Because it was a special vase. No one was allowed to touch it, just in case.
I think my sister might have got it.
That's fine, okay, because it was a very special vase. So I hope it's also in one piece, because it was very special.
I think so.
It was very special to her. And as I say, no one had been allowed to touch this because there was these one or two little pieces that she really, really liked. And if anyone got too close, they would get the eyes cast across them that said, move away. Not too close. Do you know, it never amazes me as well over the years that can be talking about something serious one moment and they'll come through with a memory or something that's so different but important to them. And I'm just going to go with what she's saying, because she's saying the one thing she loved was a comfy bed.
Yeah.
And she would have often mentioned this. It was the pillows, the duvet, everything just had to be right. She liked a comfy, warm bed.
Mm-hmm.
So when she was away anywhere else, she did not take well to another bed at all.
Didn't sleep well, no.
Which is possibly part of the reason she never really left the house.
She didn't go gone.
She liked her, as we would say, our creature comforts here as well. And she's also making me aware here, and I hope this would have been known, because when we say something's a secret, you think, oh, okay, because she's talking about a wee secret box of biscuits, or it was a secret place where she kept her own wee packets of biscuits, which makes me think, was it so secret? No one would have known anyway.
I don't know about that, I'm afraid.
That's right. It just seems to be like a wee secret bit
Yeah.
to get at them. Okay, and they were up high.
All right. Okay. Okay.
They were up high. But you know, I know that she's still spoken about. I know these memories still come through, and there's a
They
lot
do.
after because you know she brought a lot of, and I want to say sunshine into everybody's life because she did. She had her
Yeah.
she had her wee habits, and
Yeah.
people would remember as being, you know, a strong soul but a kindly soul.
Yes.
She would
Yes.
always stop. She would always have words with everybody. So I know that a simple trip to the local shop, which for maybe you and I would take like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
never a short trip in her day because you
No.
met so many people and there was always a wee chat to everybody. So the 5-minute trip could end up an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a strange wee thing, but when I'm talking about shopping here, she's talking about the bread she used to buy, and it had to have the full heel around it.
Oh, right. I can't remember that, to be honest.
Ask, that would be great. And it
Okay.
brings to mind the type that she's shown me. It's the mother's pride.
Ah, yes. Yes.
It'll only be that one because of the shape and the heel.
Yes. Yes. I remember the Mother's Pride. Yes.
Just
Yeah.
talking about shops.
Yeah.
It's the one thing she used to get, and I don't think that would have changed because she was very set in her ways when it came to buying things.
Yes. Yeah.
So she's just bringing that forward here. She's also a lady as well that doesn't seem to store up things. It just seems to be we get what we want as
Yeah.
we need it. So
Yeah.
I can't say the cupboards were ever full. She likes this wee shopping trip. She likes to
Yes.
shop
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just things almost on a daily basis here.
Yeah.
It's almost like a wee trip out here as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can I leave her love with you because she's a lovely, lovely lady.
Thank you.
And say thank you very much for working with me here. Could I come to Paula, please?
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Aware of a gentleman that comes forward. This gentleman comes forward on your father's side of the family. And he's quite a tall gentleman. When I say tall, I'm never really good with heights. All I know is I'm 6'2", and he comes up to about my eyes. So what's that? Just under 6 foot or something. But
I know, yes.
upright gentleman, shoulders high, this is belief, and very smart as well when he chooses to be. And something about it, and I suppose typical of the generation of our dads and our granddads and everything, the shoes are always polished.
Yes,
Does that make sense to you?
it does. I think it's my granddad.
That's fine.
Yes.
And the thing as well is that, and as well as the shoes being polished, there's something he says he can't abide, and that's if the shoes are not laced up the right way, and if the laces were frayed or anything like that, that's just simply, it's simply a no-no. You know,
Okay.
people were brought up and they, you know, things like that, you know, it had to be almost spick and span here.
Yes.
And he would have been very, very, and I can say that from him, he'd be very, very set in his ways.
Yes.
And you couldn't change them. And, you know, his beliefs were his beliefs, his opinions were his opinions. And he's happy to share these. But it'd be difficult to have a kind of debate with them or argue with them because he's just not one for changing.
Right. I was a child when he passed, so I didn't really know him.
You understand the description so far of him?
Yes, yes,
Some way that you can check out as well.
yes.
I do know from him that he's a very, very hard worker, because he looks at his hands and his hands seem to be quite rough.
Yes.
Okay, and we know that when someone is, it's like very labor intensive or really using the hands.
Yes.
And so he looks at his hands and they really are, as I say, very rough, and in some cases quite sore as well. So my understanding is there'd be some sort of, from him, arthritis or some reason why he feels his hands are quite sore.
Possibly. I don't really know, to be honest.
If there's any way you can check, if not, that's okay. But you know, there's also a silence about him. And I do wonder from your memories of him, if you remember, there'd have been times you've been sitting there and it's not, there are times where he doesn't say a lot. He's quite a quiet man at the same time.
He was quiet.
To remember his voice, whereas I know you could remember like your grandmother's voice and things like that.
Oh, yes.
And that's what he's coming through with. It'd be difficult to place what his voice sounded like, because he was really kind of quite a quiet man here.
Yes, yes.
And then he talks about Gran.
And oh, yes.
They are quite opposites. And we talk about people when they're
absolutely
talking cheese, when they can't live together but can't live apart. It's that type of relationship here. Okay.
Yes.
He does say that she was an excellent cook.
She was, yes.
All her grannies were. We all talk about our grannies' excellent cooking, but he specifically was her soups.
Yes, yes.
And were absolutely brilliant, he says. And half the time he says he never knew what was in them. She would just, in that generation, everything goes into the pot. You know, that's, he talks specifically about our soups and would have commented on these here as well. And, you know, about your gran as well, there's always that smile she has for everybody. And she will, if you remember about your gran as well, even if she was upset or somebody was getting on her nerves, as she says, she could smile through gritted teeth.
Yes, that's her, yes.
And there's a few photos of her doing that as well, seemingly.
Yes, I've got one over there, yes.
Where she's smiling through gritted teeth. Because it's all she has to stop for that photo being taken, and that's valuable, precious time, you know, and take one photo, but she's not going to stand about for the second, third, fourth, or whatever here. And yet I do think as well, she's talking about her hair, but she's talking about her hair getting very fine as time went on. And again, that's part of, you know, the age. It was. Particularly with her hair. Just so fine. It was almost like
yes, it was
a break kind of thing, and she didn't like that.
Yes,
she really liked that. No, and her hair was very important to her, and she would have gone through different styles when she was younger as well. Here, okay, is there some reason?
Yes,
the bouffant hairstyle of the times.
Possibly.
There must be a photo going back here as well. Who loved the Beatles?
Well, I did years ago. I hate to admit that now, but
I'm hearing one particular song of the Beatles, and it's the one Yesterday.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I'm not going to sing it. Clear the Zoom room in about a minute flat, trust me. But I'm hearing that song come forward here as well. And I don't know where this is important, but that lovely song, The Rose, obviously not by the Beatles, but it's that lovely, was it Bette Midler that sang that lovely song?
Yes, yes, I know. Beautiful.
And that's very important.
Yes.
Gran is also speaking about the rose as well. as in
Right.
was there a rose bush that was planted in memory, or she's talking about the rose bush in the garden? There's something special.
She had roses in her little garden. She did, yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
And she's talking about here as well, and she's, for some reason, she's adding this to the roses. Okay, so I'm not too sure where she's going on this, but she's giving me the name of Elizabeth.
Yes. Yes.
There's a connection there with roses as well, because I had to mention Elizabeth after the
Right.
So I hope that makes sense here.
It does.
Would you understand that she would talk about a love of the TV here, please, as well?
Yes. Yes.
A drink there, but she's taking me to Coronation Street.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't remember that, but I don't know. I was very young.
and I'll tell you what she's showing me, because I don't know but she's showing me Coronation Street. And she's showing me the lady that used to play the first landlord of the pub, and it was Annie Walker.
Her name was Annie.
Ah, right, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
I wasn't sure why she's that was a kind of whole way of her showing me why she could have just
Oh,
Annie,
yes.
but
Yeah.
she's showing me that. And
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Here. So we got there with that. But you know, she's such a lovely lady. And you know, as I said, her granddad, I'm not quite sure how it worked, but it did, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The one thing, for some reason, your grand's saying, and again, you know, I know you said you were very young when he passed, but it's like if your granddad tried to go into the kitchen, she would shoo him away.
Yes. Very possibly.
He was, you know, back to your seat. It was almost like, don't get under my feet.
Yes. Yes.
So he would toddle off back to the seat.
Yeah.
Was wait for his bowl of soup, or whatever it was that she.
Yeah.
Here well. Just before I leave you, she's showing me a street, but it's very much the old cobbles, and I'm not back to Coronation Street or anything. She's showing me old-fashioned cobbles.
I know where you are. I know where you are.
Okay, and it has a strong connection, and it's very
Yes. Yeah.
Old-fashioned cobbles, of course you can hear everything going over. Would you have
Yes.
of that and being at that bit?
Yes. Yes.
I ask that because you could hear, like, and it would have been a lot less traffic, but the traffic going over the cobbles and
Yes.
like everything, and it's kind of got a soothing sound to it.
Yes. Yes.
Sound, everything going over the
Yeah.
cobbles. That's what it brought about. And
Yes.
having a clock. There's a clock. It's almost like a kind of mantle clock.
Yes. I remember it.
But you'll remember this because it has the loudest tick-tock in the history of all.
Yes. I can't bear ticking clocks.
I think maybe stemmed from there because
Yes.
it keep everyone awake. And
Oh, it was awful.
I understand that completely, because when you're in a room, and especially someone else, and you hear the sound of a ticking clock, it just seems
Oh.
louder and louder. And
Yes.
we never partied with this clock, and it was all
No.
up religiously as well.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So, and always seemingly kept the correct time as well, and exact.
Yes.
But it was pride in place. It was pride in place. So if I can leave that with you, and just part of it, just asking her why she's coming through here, and your granddad as well coming through. Again, they want to give you this little bit of love, and this little bit of a boost at the same time as well. And
Thank you.
here as well, because you're looking at various things going on, and they're just saying some of it will bring the tears, some does bring laughter.
Yeah.
And giving you that lovely little boost. They just want to, do you know, it's almost the same back to Gran here as well. And this goes straight back to the dress that I was doing. She wants to give you this little bit of a hug and just say,
Oh,
I'm there. Times may
thank
be
you.
a little bit tough, but
Yeah.
I'm here. And it's simply,
Thank you.
and I'll leave.
Thank you so much. Bless you.
Thank you. How are we doing for time?
If you wish to do one more, Ewin, more than welcome. Thank you very much.
I'll just do one more and see who's coming in here, because I know I've got someone here and I'm trying to encourage them to come in, because hopefully they will. If not, it's going to be a very, very short message here. Could someone connect me to the name of David, please? And I don't know whether David's here or passed, but I want the name of David. That's all I'm hearing at the moment. Can anyone understand that? Can I come back to Paula, please? Do you understand the name of David here?
I do, but I didn't want to say because I just had a message.
That's
Sorry.
okay. I was just aware of someone there, and then with the word, I just realised, no, I'm back. Hotel, please, and that name.
Okay, thank you. He's on the earth plane.
That's fine. And the reason being, just a little bit of reassurance there as well, please. That's what I've got to
Yes.
do. And if you can
Thank you.
pass that on, that's what
I will.
be a gentleman that would come forward for him, okay, on his
I
family.
know.
And you would
Yeah, I know.
give that little bit of reassurance and just to ask him to trust.
I will. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Much. Okay, I'm probably going to leave it there because I feel with that, I'm not sensing anyone else coming forward at this point.
Absolutely fine. Ewin, beautiful. Thank you very much. And now, while we're sat within this energy, with that evidence, upliftment and love from our loved ones in spirit, we just spare a short time, little moment's peace, just to ask for and to send out healing. So we just like to just go into the quiet, just for a very short time, and work within those healing realms, whichever manner and fashion that you work. Divine and gracious Spirit, we give thanks for that healing energy, that contact with the love that emanates from the heart of all creation. And we know and trust that healing will be received by all those names thought of this morning. And it will be received on a level in where they need that healing, not for us to confine or constrain it with our own wishes, but just trust in that healing has been given, and all is in accord with our divine plan and will. Amen. Before I go over to you and for the closing blessing, just a quick few notices for the week, please. Today at 3 p.m, live here within the church, we have our second divine service of the day, and that's being taken by Tony Goswell. I would ask that anybody thinking of attending the service live here, please bear in mind the travel restrictions and the distance between yourself and the church. That will be broadcast live online to view only on the church Facebook page. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. and also Saturday morning at 9 a.m. we have our 5-minute meditation time. This Wednesday at 7 o'clock, live on the church Facebook page, We have our Lyceum night, and this week we welcome Kate Green in from Manchester. Kate's one of these amazing mediums who has really stepped up to embrace and encompass the online works, not only in her mediumship, but also by running groups and also becoming on the committee of a physical church in the area. So it's just going to be a good chance to share her experiences, the direction, and what it's like to be running and working at this time for Spirit online. So that's this Wednesday, 7 o'clock, live on the church Facebook page. Saturday evening at 7 o'clock, live on the church Facebook page, we have a wonderful lady from Derby, Gillian Schofield, and she'll be giving an introduction to shamanism. We've had a few programs on different shamanic practices, but I like every now and then to go back to ground zero. So she's going to give an overall impression of shamanism for the experienced and the inexperienced alike. Next Sunday at 10:45, our Zoom Divine Service will be taken by Julianne Harper. And then at 3 p.m, live back in the church, we have Phyllis Rumney taking our service. Thank you for listening to those notices. Ewin, sir, if I could ask for the closing blessing, please.
Divine Spirit, as we go our separate ways today, we thank you for the road that you take with us, for taking those steps with us when the sun shines, laughing with us, but also shouldering us, crying with us on the days it just seems to rain. But we know that you take each and every step with us on that journey of life. And for that, we will always remain grateful. Amen.
Amen. Ewin, what a beautiful service. I'm sure everybody will join in with me in thanking you so much for taking our service today. The reading, the philosophy, and the messages of love from Spirit, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. I really like, this is not against anybody, it's just an observation. I really like when the medium connects directly with the sitter, because to me, that's that additional piece of evidence that Spirit know what they're doing